What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Laced Up Podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode. We have a much anticipated guest, Kedon Slovis, with us today. When I ran a poll last week, one of the top people on that list was Kedon Slovis. So we're very blessed to have him on here. And I would throw an intro out there, but I just kind of want to hear from you. Give us a little intro on yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. What do I say? I'm a kid from Scottsdale, Arizona. Been playing college football for the past 4 years. Been really enjoying it, and going to spend my last year of eligibility at BYU. Been pretty grateful to meet guys like you, and I'm excited to get going, really.
Dude, that's awesome. So you're from Scottsdale. Is that where you're born and raised the whole time?
Born and raised. My family's kind of from the Midwest, but they just kind of, my dad at least wanted to move out west, get some more sunshine, get out of the gray skies, and he's there. He's retired. My mom's still there. Born and raised, got 2 older brothers, and I like going back now, especially with all this cold and snow we got out here in Utah, so it's been pretty sweet.
Scottsdale's a nice place.
It is. I don't think I really was as grateful for it until, I grew up and left and came back. But it's super nice. Weather's really good. People think it's so hot. It's really only hot in the summer. So it's kind of like our winters in the summer. You stay inside or wake up early if you want to go out and do anything. But super nice. Lots of good food, good spots. A lot of people like to party there. I'm not a big partier, but a lot of people love going out in Scottsdale. Lots of bachelor parties from California.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. When I was at USC, a lot of people were like, "Oh, dude, my friend's bachelor party. They're going out to Scottsdale. Tell them where they should go." I was like, "Bro, I don't know where to go, but we'll have plenty of fun." Yeah, it's a big party spot. I feel like Arizona kind of become that a little bit just because of the touristiness of it. And
they've got that rep for being the party schools and all that.
And that, yeah, definitely.
What you said, they got good food there. What's your favorite type of food they got down there?
They got everything. They got lots of great Mexican food. My favorite spot is this place called AZ88. It's a really cool spot. There's I just feel like you can't go wrong. There's so many different spots. My brother actually owns a few different bar restaurants down there, and he does a great job. So, you just go down the downtown Phoenix, where his places are, and you can literally just hop from place to place, get a bite to eat everywhere. It's pretty sweet.
Dude, I've heard that. I've heard from multiple people who lived in Arizona for a time. They always say that's one of the first things they say. It's the food there's so good.
It's grown a lot too, I think. I don't know if it was like that 20 years. It was, but it's become a real foodie spot.
I think because everybody's moving there because they're realizing how nice of a spot it is. It's super hot in the summers, but then you got the other 9 months of the year where you're just chilling. It's perfect.
100%.
What's it like right now? What's the weather like right now?
Probably 65 and sunny.
Golly.
No rain.
And we're freezing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Tell me a little about your family. What's your family life like?
Yeah, so I got 2 great parents. They're both teachers actually, so they met while teaching. They're not together anymore, but I'm really grateful they have a pretty good relationship. I have 2 much older brothers too, 10, 12 years older than me. Again, we're really close. They're not involved in sports, but the oldest one's a lawyer. The second one, again, or the middle brother, I guess you'd say, owns 4 bar restaurants now downtown, which is really proud of him. So everyone kind of does something different. So you got the brainiac, you got the artsy foodie guy, and then you got me, who's more the athlete. And I'm really proud of my family. It sounds weird, but
no, that's awesome.
Kind of seeing where everyone's doing now, it's pretty cool. And again, I think my parents did a good job of looking back. They being teachers and stuff, you don't have the most money or biggest salary, but I feel like it was really nice to kind of have you always get weekends with your parents. My dad always coached me in sports growing up. My mom always had time for me after school. So I was pretty grateful for my upbringing.
That's awesome. So no girls.
No girls, all boys. 3 boys, yeah.
You're the youngest?
Oh, yeah.
So was your, what got you into sports? Because you said the older 2 brothers aren't really into sports. Is your dad, what?
Yeah, probably my dad. So they have a different dad than me.
Okay.
Again, I don't like saying that because, we're really close. I don't like saying, we're half brothers, but I guess we technically are. And my dad was a big part of their life too, but kind of got in their life when they were a little bit older. And I think when my parents had me, my dad was of course he's going to be in sports. My dad was a big basketball player growing up, so that was the first sport. Played basketball, baseball, played a little bit of soccer. I wasn't a huge soccer guy, but
everybody went through a soccer phase.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Everyone played a little bit the crappy soccer. You just kick it at each other's feet. But basketball it was really basketball and football for a long time. A little bit of baseball, but I thought throwing a football is better than pitching. Probably better for your arm too. So
yeah.
That was the weird thing. My dad didn't play any football at all.
Really?
It was kind of more me, and we started throwing the ball around the backyard, and I was like, I think I'm pretty good at this. Let's
Dude.
It'd be cool if we could play football. And I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but
yeah,
I'll help you out. Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool. I had no idea about that. So what, like, when do you feel like it clicked to you? Because you talked about you played different sports. So when did it click, like, okay, football's my thing? Like,
yeah, probably freshman year of high school, I think. Like, I played both sports. I had, like, a really close-knit, like, club basketball team growing up.
Yeah.
And we all went to different high schools. So I think, like, playing in high school with different kids in a different system under a different coach, it wasn't as fun for me. I wasn't playing with my best friends anymore. And, like, my one best friend who did go to high school with me was, like, too good for the freshman team. He was playing on varsity. So I was like, bro, my one best friend's not on this team anymore. I really love football. I thought I was actually, like, I mean, to be honest, like, how many 6'2" guys in the NBA who, you know, aren't super athletic, like, to the point where they're, like, dunking over people. It's like, I'm not that guy, you know. So I kind of thought, realistically, this is probably the way to go. Also, I think it fits my personality more, too. Basketball is kind of a one-on-one, like, I'm going to dominate you and, like, win to the basket, whereas football, I think, is more cerebral, more of a team sport, more system-based, more, you know, studying and just cerebral as a whole. So I think, like, the quarterback position definitely fit my personality, too. So I was a lot better, fit my personality, and I was kind of like, I think this is kind of the route I want to go.
Dude, that's way could So is it, like, from the day one you were always quarterback, or, like, did you ever, like, dabble in other positions, maybe try defense, receiver, or, like, what?
I could always, like, throw it. I always, like, wanted to play receiver. Like, there'd be times where, like, I was always the quarterback of the team. But if we were up, like, I'd be like, hey, like, let me get a few routes to receiver. Like, I did always play, like, I think until high school, I played a lot of defense. Like, I played safety and nickel and some corner, too, when I was a little bit faster, probably. But I think in high school, my high school quarterback coach or high school head football coach told me, like, hey, if I catch you in a tackling drill, like, I'm going to break your arm for you. Like, don't stay around that stuff. Like, we need to keep you healthy. So that was kind of the end of my defensive stint. But, yeah, mostly just quarterback, really.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
So you've always loved it, and that's just been kind of what you're doing. Let me ask you this. Did you do any because, like, nowadays, so, like, I played quarterback in high school, too. I don't know if you know that. But it wasn't as common for these people to be going to these – they have these big training facilities these days where, like, you know, you got, like, the what's that one down in California everybody goes to? I went to it one time. Obviously, it didn't work out. Who runs that?
Like the quarterback coaches? Is it 3D QB?
3D, that's what it is, 3D QB. So it's like, did you do any of that in high school? Because, like, I didn't even know about any of that in high school.
Yeah.
Was that something you were on top of?
I feel like it's grown a ton since I kind of got to college or, like, even later in high school. Luckily, again, like I said, like, my parents weren't going to, like, spend a ton of money on me being, like, a quarterback. So I feel like it started with my dad, like, looking up quarterback drills online and, like, trying to teach me. But at a certain point, my dad was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't teach this kid the right thing. So I actually, like, at the time, the freshman football coach at my high school and my dad were actually, like, good buddies. So my dad kind of just asked him, like, hey, like, is there a guy, like, that could, like, show Keaton what to do? And the head varsity quarterback coach at the time, just a great guy. His name's Sean Seaman. He, like, basically, like, free charge was like, yeah, I'll help you out. And my dad and I were like, or my dad really was like, hey, I feel bad. Like, we're going to pay you something. But, like, it wasn't like a huge rate. It was really just like a, you know, more of like, I appreciate you. It wasn't like he's charging this. So he helped me with footwork and all this stuff and kind of, like, really honed in my fundamentals a lot. And, like, I owe my whole development to him because, again, it wasn't like a big circuit. It wasn't like I was training with him every day. It'd be like, you know, probably every week or every weekend. I think I started in, like, 7th, 6th grade. And, like, from that point to I was a freshman, like, I got so much better with my feet and stuff. And, like, wasn't the fastest, most athletic kid, but I think I kind of made up for it with my pocket movement and all that other stuff. And that's all because of Sean. And now, like, I go see the 3D guys, and they're awesome. But, like, you know, that stuff gets expensive sometimes. And to be honest, like, most, like, I don't live in California. I'm from Arizona. Like, and there's some other guys in Arizona that, like, I've been to a few times. But most of those guys are kind of in it to, like, make money. Like, Sean's Coach Seaman is, like, he's a consultant. Like, he's a full-time day job. Like, really, he's worked with, like, 3 quarterbacks, me, and there's probably a few other kids. But the other one now, his name's Luke Moga. He's kind of blowing up right now. But, again, it's kind of just, like, his hobby, and he's really good at it, I think. So hats off to Sean because he's the man.
Yeah, that's super cool. And one thing that kind of sticks out to me about that, too, is, like, your dad, like, he knew what he, like, even though he didn't necessarily know what he was doing, like, himself, he knew what he was doing to get you, like, to where you need to be. And he was willing to make those sacrifices. Like, do you feel like that, that helped you be so close to your dad, like, seeing the sacrifice and seeing the effort he was making?
100%. I still, like, we have a really great relationship, my dad and I I think my dad's big thing is like, he was like, obviously I wanted a family, but what I really wanted was like, I wanted to go be able to play with my son in the gym. And like my dad was the local basketball, like the middle school basketball coach, the high school basketball coach. And it was always cool because like on weekends he had the keys. So like he'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "Not like, did you done with your homework? Yeah, all right, let's go shoot hoops." So like my dad was super active and like loved going to take me to the gym, would love like working on my basketball game with me. But with football, like you said, it was kind of one of those things where he was humbling himself and like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's go find something to help you with it." But I think that was also really cool. Like, you know, if it was raining outside and I was wanted to throw the football, he'd be like, "Let's go in the basketball gym and throw the football." So he was, you know, really appreciative that my dad like wanted that part of his life to align with mine, like wanted to kind of have that bonding experience. Because again, it led to a lot of fun moments. Like, again, he was the coach of my club basketball team because we could just go in the gym and, you know, practice. And so I think all my friends were kind of appreciative of it too, because it's Saturday and no one's doing anything. They're like, "Hey, can you get your dad to open up the gym for us so we can go shoot?" And my dad like loved doing it. So yeah, no, I'm really grateful for that.
Dude, that's super cool. So tell me about like, when did it transition from like, "Oh, I'm pretty good at this," to like, when did you start getting your offers and how did you get to USC?
Yeah.
What was the recruiting process like for you?
It was weird because I played my freshman year as a sophomore. I think that was like my biggest step where I was like, okay, I think going into my sophomore year, I was like, I think I can be a D1 quarterback. I just haven't had any offers and stuff yet.
Right.
It was weird because like I went through the whole process of like going to camps and stuff, but no one really paid attention or cared unless you were like already a name. Right. So, and then beyond that, there was another quarterback at my high school year, like older than me, who was a senior when I was a sophomore. He played since he was a sophomore. So he was like a 3-year established starter. I was never going to play as a sophomore, even though I felt like I was good enough. And like coaches told me like, "Hey, different situation, you might play, but we're not going to bench this kid. Or you're not going to play over him." So, so I didn't play until I was a junior, which most kids kind of play when they're sophomores. Sometimes like Spencer Rattler's in my area, he plays a freshman. So that definitely like took more, like it was definitely later in the process. But after my junior year in varsity, had a pretty good year, made the playoffs. Our team was pretty average, but like we scored a lot of points and we did a lot of good stuff. My high school OC was Kurt Warner, so I think that was like a big allure too. We had a good offense. I learned a lot. So it was weird.
How are you not going to mention that your OC was Kurt Warner until just barely like?
I feel like I bring it up all the time. So
offensive coordinator is Kurt Warner.
So that's Kurt's kids went to our school, so like he wanted to help out, so he just happened to be at our high school. Sounds casual, but like that's actually how it went down. So I was like, when I was that was my like feeder high school, but like when I was like time to go to high school, I was like, "Oh yeah, of course I'm gonna go to this high school because Kurt Warner's there."
Right.
So yeah, Kurt helped a lot, like learning and stuff, but he doesn't know anything about college recruiting. So when I kind of asked him questions, he's like, "I like can't really help you." So luckily, just out of the blue, like before spring, like you have spring practice kind of starts. Maybe not here because it snows, but like in most states, I think you have like spring practices. That's when coaches come out and see you throw and stuff. But before all that, like some Mountain West schools, I think Hawaii was the first one to offer, kind of just build momentum. And then it was weird, like a bunch of Mountain West schools, and then out of nowhere, NC State came and offered me. And then that's when like the bigger Power 5 schools started offering me. I think it was Oregon State, and then also in USC. And at that point, USC just came off like Sam Darnold's second year, like he was about to get drafted, top 5 pick. So like that was super alluring to me. And I never thought rewind like a few months, I thought I was going to be a Mountain West quarterback just because of the time. I thought I was good enough to be at that level, but I was like, I don't think I'll get the opportunity because I'm already junior. Most guys are already committed. And I think because JT Daniels reclassified, it actually allowed the USC thing to open up for me because most of those spots are kind of picked up. Looking back, I wish I waited a little bit more. By the time like USC offered me, and my parents were like, "What are you waiting for? Like, let's go commit right now." So I committed like a week later, which again, it worked out fine, but like probably not the best thing to do in retroactively. In retrospect, probably should have just been like, "Hey, that's cool. I appreciate you guys," but like should have felt out because like I remember I was getting recruited by Notre Dame last year, and Coach Reese, their OC, was like, "I remember I was going to come watch you that weekend, but you committed to SC, so I didn't come." And same with the Georgia coaches were supposed to come, but then they didn't end up coming. So I was like, I could have waited a little bit, maybe, maybe see what other options were out there. But it worked out.
Yeah, tough life. Had to go to USC, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not complaining, but I definitely had no idea what I was doing. That's for sure.
So when did the flip switch in your head from like, I'm not a Mountain West quarterback to like, okay, I can go be an elite level quarterback at a Power 5?
Yeah. So I think I always thought I was that level quarterback. I just didn't think I'd get the like offer.
Okay, that makes
sense. I kind of started building the chips on my shoulder, like, oh, like I'm not gonna get that offer, and I got it. I was like, all right, well, no one thinks I'm gonna play at this level, you know. So like that was like, I think in my mindset, I knew I would watch college football games on the weekend and be like, oh, I'm just as good as these guys, if not way better, you know. So that's why I think in my head I was like, I can play at this level for sure. But again, like I just didn't think I was gonna get the opportunity, to be honest.
Right, that makes sense. And then you were at USC for 3 years?
3 years, from 19 to 21.
So you started in 19 as a freshman?
So or I was the number 2 going into the season behind JT. JT had a season-ending injury halfway through the first game, so I played the rest of the year.
Okay.
So I didn't. So essentially, yes, but I didn't start out that way.
Right.
Obviously, unfortunate for it to happen, but like was super fortunate to play as a young age. I didn't think I'd have the opportunity. I thought I'd like redshirt and sit for a year or two, and then have another opportunity to play as like an older guy. But yeah, I got to play as a freshman. Had a fun year, and like looking back at my experience there, like had some ups and downs, but like as a whole, like I'm pretty grateful that I just got to play. Like I'm talking to so many guys now that are older than me that have more eligibility, and I'm kind of like, oh dang, like how am I only 21 and I like
you're on your last year.
Yeah, I'm on my last year, and you guys are, you know, especially here, guys are like 23, 24, and they have like 3 years left. I'm like, bro, that doesn't make, like Cade, for example, is like a redshirt sophomore. He's 23. I'm like, bro, that doesn't make any sense. I'm only 21. That's like, I wish I got held back or like went on a mission or something. So,
for sure. That's funny.
But then I'm like, well, actually, I'm like really grateful because I think most kids would really want to play as a true freshman, and I'm like, that's pretty lucky that, you know, it happened that way.
It's everyone's dream, right? You come in and you. Yeah, I remember when I was at Utah State, I felt like I was doing really well, and everybody else felt like I was doing well. I mean, even I was getting good feedback from coaches. Then it comes down to it. He's like, well, you know, you're a freshman, so it's like, I'm like, I don't care what and that was the most frustrating thing for me. Not to mention, I'm a 21-year-old freshman, so it's like, bro, like I'm not a freshman, I'm not 18-year-old.
Right, like I'm a little more mature than the average.
So
freshman,
like that was like one of the most frustrating things for me, and that's when I was like, that was one of the things that kind of like set me off. I'm like,
you know. Well, and that's kind of like, I remember after spring ball, they're like, hey, we think you can be the starter, but like the one thing is you can't replace in-game reps, and like it's like do everything you can to watch film, but like that's the only thing against you is like you're a freshman. There's nothing you really do about that. I was like, well, that sucks. Like, give me some in-game reps and we'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
But no, I totally get that.
That's awesome. So had a good experience at Utah State, or at USC, battled through some adversity. What ultimately led to your decision going to Pitt?
Yeah, so in 2021 is a weird year. I was telling someone from my perspective, you know, again, Sam was there, Darnold, and they had 2 really good years, 10-plus win years with Coach Helton for his first 2 years. Then I committed, and then they went 5-7 the next year, which was obviously a pretty bad year.
That was your senior year of high school?
I'm senior year of high school, 2018. And then hired a new offensive staff. I kind of came before the new offensive staff was hired with Graham Harrell, who I'm pretty close with still today. But they came in, and like everyone was kind of clamoring for Coach Helton's job at that time, and you know, which is understandable. But again, like they decided to keep him, and my freshman year we ended up going 8-4. Not the best year in the world, but not like a 5-7 type year.
Right.
Broke all the offensive records. Had a great offensive year. They let go of the defensive staff. Then the following year was COVID. We went undefeated, lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and then the following year. So, like, since I was there, I was like, I think we were building something really special. In 2021, we won our first game against San Jose State, like 30-7. We lost to Stanford, and they fired Coach Helton after week 2. Really? And it was kind of felt like after that point, the whole season was kind of just like, not a wash, but like kind of just like weird because we had an interim head coach who was our old DB's coach. Guys trying to change all the stuff we're doing and trying to like make something happen, make something work. And I think at some point throughout the season, I think everyone in the staff room, including myself, was kind of like, all right, we're not going to be here next year. Let's figure out a new place. So I got in the portal. I was actually hoping that, you know, Coach Harrell would go somewhere that, you know, would work for me. Didn't end up working out, but ended up going to Pittsburgh at the time. You know, Kenny just had a great year. They threw the ball a lot. Jordan Addison just won the Blitnikoff. Even then, like, I think Jared Wayne was the number 2 receiver. He had a great year. He was the number 1 receiver for us this past year. And it was awesome. So I was pretty excited about that opportunity. So I kind of jumped on it. And nothing against Pitt. Loved, like, my time there. Had a great experience. Learned a lot from those coaches and those players. But kind of after this year, went 8-4. After this year, though, I was kind of looking at the opportunity and like where I was a year ago and was like, well, this isn't really the situation I committed to. You know, Jordan Addison was here. He left before the season even happened. The offense isn't the same. We don't throw the ball like we used to. And granted, I don't know, like at that point, I didn't know if Jared was even going to come back. I was thinking he was leaning towards leaving to declare for the draft. So I was like, so I lose the 2 receivers I thought I was going to have. A lot of guys get older, a lot of guys leave. Yeah. Not the offense I wanted. I have 1 more year left. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather have more control of the situation than not. And I'd rather find a situation that kind of fits what I want to do. So that's what led me here ultimately.
Dude, and what a blessing for the portal, because I mean, you said you dealt with it even at USC, where it's like you're going there and the coach leaves. Right? That happened to USC and Pitt. It's like, bro, I mean, I went through the same thing Utah State. It's like, dude, when a coach leaves, like that's what you go. You don't go there for the school or like, you go there for the coach and the scheme he's running. And so like, it can totally throw you off trajectory when they leave. Yeah,
so that's a weird thing. Like you mentioned, the quarterback, the coach that recruited me at USC, like the quarterback's coach. He left before I got there. And then at Pitt, that was the one, they didn't have an OC, but we kind of talked about the idea of like who we were going to hire, like what type of offense we'd run. It didn't really end up being that way. So that was one of the things. It's like the first time my entire career, which sounds crazy, that I've committed to coach like A-Rod and Matt that are guys that I know are going to be there. I know what offense they're going to run, and they recruited me. So it's pretty exciting that there's not like this weird like, what Pitt, it was like, all right, am I doing things the right way? Am I the type of quarterback they want? Or also like just those thoughts. And even though you are, like, you know you're the guy, but it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, is this a situation that I want it to be in? What kind of offense is it going to be? Versus like, hey, I know what it is. I've already seen all the cut-ups. I know the offense. I've been here 2 weeks versus like, okay, we're installing an offense now. And the whole team's learning. And there's a lot of big learning curves. And like, I feel you don't figure it out until week 11 of the season. Yeah. So, no, I'm very much looking forward to that this year.
That's cool. So, everything, you know, was the way it was at Pitt. And then what you said it was just the coaches here that ultimately led you go into BYU or what?
Yeah, I think like after my experience last year, I was like, well, the main thing I'm looking for is a system that fits me and that's going to throw the ball. That's going to be like our identity. I think that was number one. But like the second thing I learned probably from my like last few years at USC and this past year was like, doesn't matter, like good players win games, right? Like you can have the greatest scheme in the world. And, like, that's essential, and that's why it's number one. But, like, you still need some dudes to make plays. And you need some dudes around you. Football's the ultimate team sport. And, like, I think, you know, you're not going to have success if you don't have successful people with you, and you can't do it by yourself. So that was the thing. I was like, I want, again, schemes I'm looking for, then, 2, like, personnel. What's the personnel look like? And I thought BYU fit that the best. And I think hearing their excitement about, like, having me in this system and playing in this offense and kind of catering the offense towards me. Also, like, day one, Aaron was like, hey, if there's stuff you want to run, like, let's talk about it. And I was like, that's so, like, refreshing to hear. Because, like, I don't need you to do what I want to do. But, like, just to have the conversation or to, like, cater to, like, what you think I do well is, like, all that I need to hear. So, hearing that, I think we got some good players. Want to add some more depth probably. But, like, again, I think where we're at right now is a pretty good spot personnel-wise.
Dude, that's so cool. Being on the same page as your coach is, like, one of the most important things, especially from like really any position, but from a quarterback position where you are the one who at the end of the day is going to have to make the plays. It's like, I don't know if you're the same way, but for me, it was like, there's certain plays that I don't know why, but I just hate them. They might be great plays, but I just hate them. And so it's like, hey, like, let's just not run that, or like, can we change it? So,
so I think the relationship too, between the coach, like at Pitt, sometimes it'd be like, hey, like, if you feel away, like, say something. It's like, well, I need to be in an environment or, like, have a relationship with someone that I feel okay saying something or actually feel like I'm being heard. Because, like, if you're saying something and it doesn't get listened to, you're just going to stop saying stuff eventually, right? But if you feel like you can say something and then actually get something constructive from it, you're like, yeah, it's easy. You know what I mean? It's not like you're, like, plucking hairs and it's, like, this big deal when you do say something. It's like, no, it should be so easy. It should be easy going. It shouldn't be feelings or egos involved. We should be able to get at it.
It should be, you should be able to feel like you can just talk. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be uncomfortable to like bring up something to your coach. No, that's super cool. That's so important. I didn't realize that was so big in your decision, but it makes a lot of sense why it was. What was the transition like coming to Provo? Like so you're the first person we've had on the pod who isn't a member of the church, who didn't go on a mission. So it's like, I've actually really been wanting to have someone on so I could have this conversation. What's it like coming to Utah? Is it a different feel?
It's definitely different. But I will say, like, perception outside is way way different than what it actually is. I think it gets like blown out of proportion to like Utah is so weird.
Right.
And it's different for sure, but like it's not that much different than living in Arizona. I think like of all the places I've been, this actually feels the most like Arizona that I've been.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of members in Arizona too. It's big LDS like following in Arizona.
Right.
But not necessarily in my area either. That's the thing. Like I feel like my area feels like this too.
Yeah.
But definitely in the Mesa Gilbert area. But like it feels very much like that. I think the other thing that's just a little bit different, like just like what people do in the like downtime, and it makes sense because the LDS, in the church here. But like people like they're like, oh, you're going on a date, like go to Top Golf, and I'm like, bro, like that's something I think about doing in high school. You know what I mean? So like but like it makes sense with the whole environment and stuff. But I think that's the whole thing. Like activities, like people are talking about like going skating. Is that like a big thing, right? Go to Classic, is that what it's called?
I mean, I used to do it in high school, but I'm married, so it's a little different. I'm kind of out of the loop too.
That's true.
But yeah, the activities are a little different.
But that's like the biggest thing. But other than that, like it's the same. The people are the same. And I would say like I think I love about being here, it's really cool, is like I think people are like aren't afraid to really be themselves. I think other like locker rooms and stuff, people are more like kind of like closed off or like put walls up or try to act like a certain way.
Yeah.
And here I feel like people just are like everyone on the team, and maybe it's just like the team environment, maybe not just the city, but like I feel like people here are just pretty genuine. They kind of just like are themselves. They might be a little quirky or goofy, but like they're not like afraid of that. You know what I mean? They kind of just embrace who they are and what they're like. And I think that's been like super refreshing, is like you can just have a conversation with someone and like you don't have to be guarded. You can kind of just talk openly, and it's kind of that's been like super nice and refreshing. And maybe that's weird to people, but like I think that's like weird in a good way. I think it's like a good difference that I've been kind of enjoying.
Right, dude. I agree with that. Like even just coming from Utah State, it's the locker room feels way different. There isn't that like, oh, I got to be a certain person or I got to act a certain way. Everyone's just themselves, and it really isn't like you don't feel like people are judging you all the time.
Yeah,
it's cool. That is, yeah. I don't know if that's like something that. I would imagine it's just because of the way Kalani is.
Yeah.
I think he does a really good job of, hey, like, we're going to love each other. We're going to be a team. Be yourself. And he's talked about that, too, like, with his experience with Jamal Williams. He's like, for me, I just had to let him be him, be his weird self, do his thing, and that's what helped him thrive. And I think that's when people do their best, is when they can just be themselves and be comfortable. So that's super cool. What's been the biggest – has there been anything that's like surprised you or that you didn't know you were getting yourself into with Utah or BYU?
No, not really. I think like, again, I think the biggest thing is that things are like way more normal and people are way more normal and way more like you than you think. I think you had Isaac on your podcast. I think Isaac's like the perfect example. Like,
yeah,
Isaac's LDS. He's married. He's pretty young. Like he's 23 or like 24. And, like, if before I was here, I'd be like, oh, that's, like, really different, right?
Yeah.
Like, meeting Isaac's, like, one of my best friends here. He's super cool. And, like, if I introduced, like, someone who wasn't from Utah to Isaac, they wouldn't think any different of him. But, like, for some reason, people on the outside kind of get this weird perception of, like, the church or whatever, like, just the cultural differences. And I'm like, dude, like, Isaac's a cool dude. Like, you know what I mean? So it's, like.
They're people.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, I think on the outside, if you, like, it definitely gets a weird perception. But, like, the more I'm here, the more I'm like, dude, like. People are just people, and it's not like any different from, any other place. It's just like, again, you might get married when you're younger, like you're married, but like other than that, that's just like the cultural difference, and it's not like, oh, not like you're not any different as a person either. But for whatever reason, it gets this weird like
rap.
Weird rap. Sure. I don't know why.
So how much did you know about like the church before you come here? Like, did you grow up with a Christian background or? Like, did you have a religious background growing up?
Not really. That's the one thing I'm kind of grateful. My parents come from super different backgrounds. So I think, like, my mom's whole thing was like, hey, learn from as many people as you can. Be whatever you want to be. If you want to be Catholic, be Catholic. If you want to be, I don't know, she's Jesuit. If you want to be, was raised Jesuit. If you want to be Jesuit, be Jesuit. If you want to be agnostic, be agnostic. If you want to go to be a part of the Mormon church and do that. But it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, be whatever you want to be. And I think that's like something that this also probably works pretty well for me because I'm like pretty open-minded.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's cool, like pick people's minds, kind of ask people about like what they think or like what they believe or how they believe it. So I think that's something for me that's a little bit different. Most people kind of, their parents are one thing and they like, that's what they're comfortable with, or maybe they feel strongly about something, but I feel like I've been kind of cultivated in an environment that kind of makes you think like, all right, like I don't care. Don't think what I think. Like, what do you think? Learn. Yeah. Have certain experiences and, like, ask people questions. So,
yeah, that's super cool. And you've lived in a lot of different places and been on a lot of different teams. What do you feel like has helped you adjust to each area or team you've been a part of? Like, what helped you adjust so quickly? Because you've been, I mean, if I didn't know just from being here, like, you don't seem like you're new to the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, you fit in really well.
Oh, I appreciate that. I feel like it was always pretty easy for me to, like, make friends and stuff. But, like, some adjustments are more difficult than others. I think the Pitt adjustment definitely took longer than it did here.
Yeah.
Same as SC. Like, I don't think I felt like I really fit in as well as early. Like, it definitely took a long time. Maybe it was because of the freshman. I was just, like, antisocial.
Yeah, that is tough.
But, like, it definitely here it's been super natural. But I think, like, I feel like I've always kind of had a decent ability to, like, go find people that are like-minded or, like, have not like-minded, but, like, really had to get along with well.
Yeah.
So I think once you kind of find a niche or a group of friends that you can kind of have, it kind of makes everything way easier.
That's cool. What have been some keys for you for helping, like, you overcome the adversity you've been through?
Yeah. It's like adversity comes in all forms, and, like, ultimately I think, like, there's two things you can take, like, control what you can, right? If there's something you can control, like, go into it, delve into it, and, like, see what you can kind of get better at, what you could do differently. Maybe something, you know, you actually like that you're doing, but you need to do more of. And then the other thing, I'd say, so, like, that's the biggest thing. And then control you control, but then the other thing is, like, when stuff's is outside of your control,
yeah,
you can't, like, lose, like, sleep over it. Again, you got to do everything you can to control the stuff you can, but, like, when other stuff's happening, you kind of just have to, like, kind of, like, dive into the adversity and kind of embrace it in a weird way and kind of think, all right, there's nothing I can do about this, but, like, I'm going to handle it the best way, I have the best attitude about it. I talked about Graham Harrell earlier. One of the biggest things I think I learned from him was he had, like, this certain cultural values that he's talked about it was selfless, tough, and discipline. And tough was not, like, everyone talks about tough being, like, mentally tough. Like, oh, you got to be, like, it drives me nuts. People always say, oh, you got to be mentally and physically tough to be tough. And it's like, well, what's that mean? You know what I mean? So his definition was toughness is battling adversity with great attitude and great effort.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, that's it. That's all it takes. Like, it's not about, like, taking hits.
Right.
It's not and maybe you took a hit that hurt you and you're going to fight through it. But, like, it's not about, like, being a hero. It's not about, like, all this stuff. Like, battling adversity might be, you know, getting, like, crap from, you know, fans or coaches even, like, getting yelled at all day and not letting it affect you.
Right.
Battling adversity might be throwing 4 picks and, like, finding a way to win.
Right.
Battling adversity might be throwing 5 touchdowns and finding a way to throw 6 without letting it kind of slack off, you know, and, like, just mail it in. Like, to me, you can kind of take that and interpret it however you want, because, like, adversity shows itself in many different forms. But if you just handle it with great attitude and great effort, like, that's, to me, is the best way to handle it. And that's kind of how I've, like, interpreted everything.
Dude, that's super cool. I really like that. I think everybody, a lot of times everyone thinks to be a tough guy, you got to be, like, this hard, like, tough dude. But no, it's just being able to fight through stuff. And everybody's going through their own internal battles. And so whatever it is, just, like people who are fighting those and you have no idea, those are the tough people. Like, they're in the right way, right?
Right.
If someone needs help, you got to help them.
And that's, like, you need to be the same person every day, too. I think that's a huge thing. Like, that's what great attitude and great effort is kind of in there for, I think, is, like, you don't want to come in, like, man, the people, man, the locker room. Emotional
and stuff.
Yeah, and then the next day you're, like, all to yourself, and like, no one wants to talk to you because you just look miserable. So I think that's the other thing. Like you said, you might be going through something, but you got to have a great attitude about it.
Dude, I love that. I love that a lot. So let me ask you one thing. I know the whole thing has kind of come full circle with the comments about playing at BYU last time. What are you most excited about now that you get to play for the home team in Provo?
Yeah. No, I talked about in the podcast, everyone being so nice. And I think it's nice being here, like, and having these interactions versus, like, being the opposing team and having people nice is definitely, like, threw you off a little bit. But it's kind of nice to have that be, like, an everyday occurrence now, I think.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, like, Lavell gets loud. Like, I think I didn't even touch on that in the podcast. Like, I talked about, the question was, like, what's the hardest place to play? And, you know, I said, like, oh, it was loud, but I kind of glossed over that and talked about how, like, everyone was nice. It kind of threw you off. But, like, I think the weird thing is, like, that place gets, I think it's like 60,000, 65,000. And it's something like that's a big stadium. It's not the biggest in college football. But I think that was definitely the loudest place I played. I played at Notre Dame. Washington was super loud too, but, like, Washington has 80,000, I think, 80,000 plus. And, like, BYU was so loud. Like, I don't know. There's something in the water up here. Everyone's just, like, more energized. Like,
they got that louder. Spirit, bro.
But, like, definitely loud. Like, louder than I could have possibly imagined because, again, I wasn't around BYU football a ton growing up, but, like, knew it was going to be a hostile environment. But, like, there were times where, like, you know, we were on the clap, so you clap it and snap it. And, like, I couldn't even hear my own clap. There were times. And we definitely had a few false starts, and I was thoroughly impressed. So I'm glad that they're not going to be loud when we're on offense.
Right.
And they'll be loud when you guys are on the field. So that's definitely I'm looking forward to that environment. And, like, they sell out a lot of games. I've only been part of one home sellout, and that was Pitt, West Virginia last year. Like, never at USC.
Really? And
the Pitt, West Virginia one, like, there was a lot of West Virginia fans there because it's pretty close. So I'm looking forward to have, like, a true home sellout, or hopefully lots of true home sellouts this year.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, man, that's the thing. BYU fans, they don't mess around.
No, they don't.
They go hard. I'm not even going to lie.
I love it.
They go hard, and they travel really well, too.
They do.
Because of the church. They're all over the country.
Or sometimes they're right? And then they're just, you know, if they live in Texas and we're in town, they're going to come to the game. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's super cool. Well, dude, what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Shoot. I think the thing about, like, probably no one in my family played football before. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I've kind of glossed over that, but like I'm the first, probably only person in the entire Slovis family to, like, play football. That's kind of, like, unique and cool to me, but also I think it kind of speaks to, like, the values of my family that, like kind of let me do what I want. You know, I think some people, my mom was kind of, like, apathetic, like, oh yeah, should we let him play football? The head injuries and stuff. But, like, I really want to do it, so she let me.
Super cool.
So yeah, I wasn't really supposed to play. My mom told me, "Hey, you have one concussion, you're done."
Yeah.
I think I got my first one, like, after I had my USC offer. So she's
that's
like,
funny. It's
like, Mom, are you gonna pay for school? Because so I think that's probably the weirdest thing is, like, I feel like so many people, quarterbacks especially, that I meet, like, it's like, oh yeah, my dad played quarterback, or, like, my whole family plays football, and it's like, no, I'm the only one in my family who plays. So.
Dude, that's actually way cool, and that's interesting, and I love, like, what you said about your family, because I don't know if you know this, but, like, in our culture, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, family's huge, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's so cool that even though you aren't, you grew up of a different faith, it's like you were still, like, family was still so important to you. And I think that's cool for people in the church to see that, like, you don't have to be a member of the church to have a great family life and to have close relationships with your family. Like, obviously, it helps when you're all centered on one thing, but there's so many, like, you can be, like, football helped you guys grow up or just loving each other. And there's a lot of ways that you can grow as a family, and you don't have to have the sole focus of Jesus Christ. Like, you can have other things that help bring you guys together. And so I think it's super cool that family's so huge to you. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you've been able to connect to so many of the dudes here, because family's so important to us. So
yeah, that's, like, and you talked about earlier, like, what's different, what are you expecting? And I think that's the biggest shock to me is, like, again, I'm not a member of the church, but to kind of see how similar I am to a lot of the dudes on the team is, like, weirdly shocking. Isaac's joking. He's like, dude, you need to get baptized now. But I was like, dude, like, I just don't, like, again, like, someone like Isaac, there's so many dudes. I could keep rounding everyone off. I'm like, we have completely different, like, faiths, but I feel like so similar to you guys. And, like, I feel like we share some of the same values. So I was talking to Chase the other day. I was like, bro, I feel like we have, like, very similar values and, like, what we value in our lives daily. But it's just a different kind of way of thinking about it. But it kind of ends up being the same in the end.
Right. A lot of the activities and things you do are similar. So, dude, that's super cool. Well, dude, it's been good getting to know you. I know a lot of people are going to enjoy seeing this. I know a lot of people are excited to get to know you better. Just, this is your first year in the program, so everybody's super excited about that. But it's been a blast. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, if there's anything else you want to say to the fans or anything.
No, let's sell at Lavell as many times as possible.
Yeah,
I guess
get
that's all
that
I
thing
can
sold
say.
out.
Yeah.
Dope. Okay, appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you.